I'm a little bit off today because I found out this morning that my high school best friend passed away of a heart attack. And, I've just kind of, all day I've been thinking about all the different things we used to do. And, we'd hang out and funny little jokes. He was the most off the cuff kind of guy that I knew. And so he would just do stupid stuff all the time. And mainly for a laugh. It wasn't a big deal. One of the biggest things was he had changed his cell phone picture sound, so when you take a picture, to a duck quacking. And it never failed. We'd be sitting in class and everything would get real quiet and you'd hear a duck quack from the back of the room. And everybody knew what it was and we all laughed, it was funny. Many times we'd be sitting in class and it'd be dead quiet and you hear the duck quack, and then 5 seconds later my phone would vibrate and I would have a picture message of his nipple. That was okay. It was funny though. And it, you look back on things and you think, man, I wish I'd have done that different. And there's nothing you can do now. I mean, it's too late. And I don't know. When I quit school at 16, I was in a dark place. Things were not going great for me, obviously. I had problems with every teacher at the school almost, and I had problems with many of the students who just, they were just bullies. And I didn't want to be there no more, so I just quit going. And then, everyone starts feeding you the whole, well, you just ruined your entire life. You're never going to be anything. You're never going to have anything. You're going to live with your mom for the rest of your life. Stuff like that. And so obviously I was depressed because of that. And I was depressed because maybe I did make the bad decision, but I couldn't go back to that school for another day. I was I can't say that on YouTube. Let me just remove redacted. I'm going to redacted. I have to cut all that out. Sorry. We'll just say redacted. I said something I shouldn't have said. We're going to remove all that. Anyway, hated school. Let's just put it that. And, so I couldn't go back again ever. It just wasn't happening. And maybe I did make a bad decision to quit school, but I had to deal with what I had to deal with. And so I was in a pretty dark place. I was not sociable with any of my friends, including this one. And I regret that. I regret not talking to him much. After school, he came by my house once. I showed him, my office, which at the time we were in a single wide trailer. We didn't have much, but one thing I did have was a nice computer, because I've always had a nice computer and I've always liked having a nice computer. And so I was showing him my computer, and at the time where we lived, there was no high-speed internet, there was no anything. So I had my own dedicated phone line for internet. And it was whatever. It was cool. At the time, it was cool. And he picks up the phone and he starts dialing, and I'm like, maybe he's calling himself or something. And I'm thinking, oh, he's just going to see there's no service up here, so his phone's not going to ring, He sits there for a second and he yells, "Rape!" And he hangs up the phone. And I'm like, what the frick did you just do? He called 911 and yelled rape and hung up the phone. And then left my house. Okay, well, I'll see you later. And it's like, what? So yeah, I had to explain to the dispatcher that my friend is dumb. And so but he joined the Army after school, and I don't really know what I did. I was pretty antisocial for a really long time. I didn't want to talk to anybody. Same with my grandparents. They would call and I just didn't want to talk. So, and I regret that too. But, you know, like I said, you can't change what you've done. So he came back from the Army, and we just kind of never really talked. I mean, before he went to the Army, we would play like Second Life and stuff all the time, which is crazy because that's a game that I got into for, I mean, no apparent reason, just because I was bored. And he, without hesitation, joined and followed and learned to code in the game. And, you know, I mean, we did all kinds of stuff together. It was kind of fun. But, you know, after the Army, we just kind of didn't really talk that much. You know, like I said, I was pretty antisocial, and I don't know what happened with him. But he moved to Charlotte, started working for a data center, and I thought that was pretty cool. You know, we were always into, you know, technical computer things. That's always what we did. And he told me one time that, you know, they offered him a job in Seattle, Washington, and he was going to move. And I was like, hey, you know, you got to follow the money. You know, if it's a good job and it pays that good, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't. So, and we had talked about, you know, just we're geeks. We like tech stuff. So, he was seeing that I had a Tesla, and he was like, you know, I'd really like to have a Tesla. And he's like, I make the money now, I can afford it. I should do it. I'm like, yeah, dude, you should do it. So convinced him to order a Tesla. I think he got a Model Y long range. It might have been a Performance, actually. I don't remember. And he loved it. It was the best car ever. So, and then that's kind of the last I talked to him, in July of last year. And then I found out today that he had a heart attack. And, you know, I've got my upcoming trip in June, and I was debating on trying to get a hold of him and seeing if I could stop by and visit him in Seattle, because I'll be out that way anyway. And funny enough, I messaged him on March 1st, and that's the day he had the heart attack. So I just assumed he was busy. He hadn't replied, you know, whatever. I didn't think nothing of it. And then I found out today. So, yeah, no, things are just a little off today because of that. And just trying to get through the day. So there's more to this that I just couldn't talk about, I guess. We had talked about me going down to Charlotte to visiting him when he moved and started working for the data center. And it just never happened. And that's one of the big regrets that I have. We talked about doing it. We talked, you know, I was like, oh, I could drive down. I mean, at the time, I only had that Taurus. It wasn't a great car. But at some point, I did buy the Chrysler 300. I had the means of doing it. I just never did. And then, you know, he started working for Cisco. I think I left that out. And then they offered him the job up in Seattle. And he's like, yeah, you know, so... yeah, it sucks, but, it's hard to believe that he was 32 and he's gone. You know, and you hear about freak accidents all the time, and it's like, oh, okay, that was a freak accident. This was just like, it feels preventative, you know, like maybe was there no sign at all? Was there no indication at all? And these are questions that will probably never get answered. His mom died several years ago, and I honestly think, I can't remember, what I think she died from a heart attack. His dad died a month ago, I think it was. All that's left of his family is his brother. His brother is not giving any details at all. I mean, I had to press to find out, like, what happened. And I'm not saying names because of the privacy of the family. I don't know what they want me to share. But this is just the story. I don't know if he had a partner at the time, you know, living with him, or I know he wasn't married or anything like that. I don't know. I don't know, you know, the current status of how that went, but, I mean, I found out 13 days after it happened, and they had cremated him. There was no funeral, no service, no nothing. He was an Army veteran. How was there no funeral? I'm assuming they did an autopsy, which is how they found out it was a massive heart attack, is what they called it. But I don't know. I mean, there's really not a lot of information. Like I said, his brother's not giving a whole lot of information either. I mean, I had to ask several times to try to get something out of him, just to find out, like, well, when's the funeral? What's, what they do with his body? Stuff like that. So yeah, I don't even know who ended up with his remains. Like, who got them? Where are they at? If they're not going to bury them somewhere, I mean, I don't know. So that's another part that kind of bothers me, the whole situation, because um, it's like they just kicked this whole problem to the curb. It's like, we don't really care. So, we're not going to go through the process of a funeral. And I feel like an Army veteran should have gotten something, So yeah, that's what's been bothering me for the past couple of days.